For those of y'all who know me, the topic of hope really resonates with me. I think for folks who kind of know what motivates me and kind of knows my work, right? I feel that I'm really called to come alongside people, support folks, help them be the best version of themselves. And so when Karen approached me to talk about hope, I was like, this is the perfect topic for me. And so I promised her I would keep it under 15 minutes. And so I'm gonna attempt to do that the best way I can. And so hopefully folks can keep me honest. So if you don't know me, my name's Shaka Sydnor, as Karen said. And I'm excited to kind of jump right in here. And so I've got some slides here. Hopefully everybody will be able to see them, but I'll kind of talk through them too. So when we talk about hope, right, the question, when we talk about hope and we're trying to define what hope is, I think a good place to start is to think about the kinds of things that we're hopeful for. And so I came up with a few examples that hopefully resonate with some folks in the crowd here. All right. So we're going to think about some things that we're hopeful for. Okay. So when you say that I hope that I do something, right, this A+ here represents grades. So for those of us who are students, right, we hope that we get good grades, right? So I'm a doctoral student because I think I have career aspirations, but sometimes I feel like I'm a fool when I'm trying to get through my work. But we hope that we get good grades, right? So whether that's Orgo, whether that's A&P, whether that's system analytics, those are the classes that I hear, some of the classes I hear the most about from students, right? We're hopeful that we can put in the work to kind of get the grades that we need. All right. Another thing that we're hopeful for, right? So if you can't see this, it's a little note. It says, I like you. Do you like me? Yes, no. Right. So back in the day, we used to slide notes. Nowadays, I hear there's apps. I don't know which way you swipe to be positive or which way you swipe to be negative. But right, you hope that if you're expressing that I've got feelings for you, or like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you, right? You hope that that's reciprocated, right? You hope that you're the kind of person that someone would want to be with. The other thing that we hope for, which I just got outed, so I'm going to try to do this with a straight face, but we also hope that the Who's bring back the Commonwealth Cup. Now, secretly, I'm doing this with a facade on, but we hope it comes back, right? It was here for a little bit. It's down in Blacksburg. Hopefully by Thanksgiving this time, it'll be back around. All right. So these are some of the things we're hopeful for. But when we talk about hope, we also, what we're talking about is that we're believing that something's going to happen. We're going to move from a current state to a different state, a current state to an ideal state, right? And sometimes those things aren't in our control. And so my parents, when I went off to college, if you can see this photo here, my parents hoped that wherever this kid went 16 years ago, that they would take this chipmunk riding, a t-shirt wearing, transition glasses wearing individual and turn him into the mature orator that you see before you today. And so I'm happy to announce that Geneva College did a really great job. The maturation piece we're still seeing, but there's a lot of things that are put together, right? And so these are things we're hopeful for, right? We talk about I want something to go from one state and transition to another. And so when we're talking about hope, when I think about what hope is, I think you can't decouple hope from also talking about faith, right? When we think about this and when we think about what faith is, it really is a deep belief in something. I think a lot of times people think about it in a religious sense and thinking about formal religion, but you can have faith in systems. You can have faith in people. You can have faith in processes, right? My parents had faith in this college that I went to 6 hours away, that they would take this skinny, scrawny, first-gen, low-income kid from southern Spotsylvania County, right, and prepare him to do some great things. And so in order to have hope, you've got to have faith, all right? So we're going to go back to our examples here and extrapolate this a little bit more, right? And so for those of you who can't see, this is a photo of a University of Virginia diploma, right? And so by hoping that we get good grades, right, we believe in ourselves and we believe in our ability to go and get one of these degrees, to graduate, right? So if none of y'all have seen a UVA diploma, they're massive. They're like poster size, they take up a whole wall. But the goal is at the end of this experience that we're all going to end up with one of those, maybe 2 or 3 if you're trying to be a double or triple who. The other thing, right? So hopefully we passed our note, right? Do you like me? Yes or no, right? Hopefully that's reciprocated. And what happens is companionship, right? Because there's people who believe in companionship, right? Believe in marriage, believe in believe in finding someone who's going to be there with them and walk through life with them for the rest of their lives. And maybe one day have a whole bunch of kids who are going to come and listen to you, listen to you talk. And then the other thing that we hope is that we hope that Brennan Armstrong, who's throwing for like 500 yards a game, starting tonight, beats Miami, gets an ACC win, and gets them back on the roll. Again, I was outed, so this hits a little differently now. But that's what we hope. And again, sorry, I'm clicking too fast. And again, some of these things are out of our control, right? But you know that when you have faith in something, when you believe in something deeply, when you believe the Who's are going to win, right? You feel that deeply. The flip side of this, though, and I think the nuanced part of faith is this question that happens of what happens when your faith is challenged, right? What happens when something that you believe so core to who you are, right, or so core to the experience that you're having is rocked, is shaken, right, is kind of turned upside down. I've got these 3 images here that depict this a little bit, right? And I want to walk through this a little bit. So on the far right, the larger picture, right, this is from August 11th. So this is when folks were marching on grounds, right, when they were chanting a lot of the things that we've heard, right? I think this is one of those pivotal moments that really rock someone's faith, right? They had hope that as a society we had moved past this sort of hateful rhetoric, this sort of racism, right? They had hoped that this wasn't the world that we were growing up in and that we were raising our children in, right? But this is a reminder that that's not the case, right? As other narratives came out, as people said, actually, this is my experience in Charlottesville. Or we had these conversations about folks that were coming into town, but we realized that some of that was a little more localized, right? That rocks the faith that you have in your community and in the people around you. This other image on the top left, is an image of Haitian refugees who are being pushed away at the border, right? It challenges that faith that people have in the American dream, right? The land of the free, the home of the brave, the place where anyone can come and be anybody. But then you see these images of people being pushed away, of people being kind of kicked at and kind of nudged back, right? It rocks that belief that you have in that. This other image, it's a picture of President Trump, right? And this is an interesting one because I think to some people, President Trump represented hope, right? He represented something that they felt that 8 years previous to that didn't represent them, right? They believed in who he was. They believed in his message. They believed in what he would bring. But to another set of people, right, it represents rocking and shaking of their faith, right? Faith in civil discourse, faith in politics, faith in the electoral system, right? And so this is really tricky, and it's easy to kind of intellectualize this and talk about it in abstract sense, but I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. So this is a picture of me and my father. You'll notice I have a diploma in hand, and I'm no longer on a chipmunk. So again, Geneva did his job. But this is my father. And so my father was my homeboy, my best friend in the world. And so I know this is being recorded. I've got other best friends, Dan, Twan, Momo, Fraction. Y'all are my boys. But my father was my ace, right? Ride or die. My father died in March of 2018. And for the first 30 years of my life, I had foundation. I had my father. And if you want to talk about a moment that shakes your faith, a moment that makes you question not just who you are, but question your confidence, your ability, question, for me as a person of faith, of the Christian faith, question my relationship with God, right? Why would you take my father? I had these hopes, right? I had hopes of a grandfather who would see his children, right? His 3 grandsons, the granddaughter on the way. I had hopes of seeing my father watching me grow up from being this little scrawny kid who went to college, who went to grad school, was the first in my family to graduate, right? I had hopes of bringing him along that journey with me. And when that was taken away, man, that rocked my world. It rocked my world. I struggled with trying to figure out, how do I find this hope? Because the thing that I clung to so much and so hard was gone. Whew. One thing I'll say is that death is a part of life. Hopelessness is a part of life. But could it be that in this hopelessness is where our growth, or where our faith can grow even stronger? Can hopelessness be a catalyst for change? In my life, it can be. I stand before you. I miss my father every day, think about him every day in different ways. But I don't stand before you hopeless. I stand before you as someone who really struggled and had to ask questions, who looked at the world around me and said, man, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, right? But I have to look inwardly. I have to lean on my community. I have to, for me, be in scripture. I have to really root myself and think differently about the things that I thought I really knew. I thought I had control of time. I thought I had control of health. But I don't have control of those things. And I believed that those things were always going to be there, right? But the reality is that's not always the case. And so how do you reimagine faith when you're in a hopeless space? How do you reimagine, excuse me, how do you reimagine hope when there's nothing in that particular moment to be hopeful about? It's not an easy process. It wasn't an easy process for me. Some days I think I'm really great at it. Other days, my wife will probably tell you, and other people who are around me when I'm grumpy will probably tell you that sometimes I slip a little bit. But I believe that in those moments, for me, I believe in those moments that that's when God is present. That's where God is most present, right? That's where you can really find out what are the things that really are important to you, right? How do you reconnect with something if you feel like you've drifted away from it? Checking the time. Think I'm doing pretty good. I hope that tonight that you can think about this and that this can be the beginning of some of those conversations. We're in a time right now where there's a lot going on, right? There's COVID. There's, we're still navigating that politically or ideologically. There's masking and unmasking, vaxxing and unvaxxing, right? There's things that are happening globally that impact us. There's things that are happening locally that impact us. What I want you to really think about is what does it mean to not lose hope while you're in that? What does it mean to sit there in that time, right, and think about what are the things that I believe in? What are the things that I hold on to? What are the things at my core? And right now, if I can't see them, how can I reground myself, reconnect with them, and find that hope? I thank you so much for your time. I think I did good on my time, which is what I was trying to do. Thank y'all so much.